Alright, well, hey guys, welcome back to Takedown Chain 23. I am Isaac, and today we're doing another sorting system tutorial. However, this one is a bit different, and yeah, it's quite a lot different. So I wanted to show off this design as well, which has some massive advantages and a couple disadvantages. So let's get into it. Now, like most sorting systems, right, you have an input chest, right? Input chest here, you can basically just dump your entire inventory into the chest. You can just bang, 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 put all your items in there, and it will automatically sort it into all of these chests. Now, it can sort into each column, right? So you can configure specific columns for a certain range of items, and that's a range of up to 48 different types of items for each column. So currently, I have it configured so you've got red wool for this column, orange wool for this column, so and so on until you get to black wool in this column. Now there is also one extra column over here on the side, which is for unstackable items and also any other items which you haven't configured the machine to take in yet. So just random items that you don't really need to sort, they're just going to go in the end, and also the non-stackables. So you can have more than one row. I've just got one row for the demonstration though. Currently the brown wool will go in there because I haven't put it in the system currently. Now this design has some massive advantages compared to my last design. First off, look at this. This is a solid wall of chests. Every single block on this wall within like the chest area is a full double chest, right? Because it goes in an extra blocks. Like this is solid chests right here. Whereas the other one, you'd have like two double chests here, and then you need to have like a gap of 2 blocks, and then a double chest here, and it was just not as many double chests fit in the same amount of space on your wall. So this one has much more compacted chests, right? Way more chests in a smaller amount of space. Now, second massive advantage is that you don't need placeholder items, right? It'll just put it right into the chest. In my old design, you had to have the entire chest with one item in each slot. So it would try and put the item in every chest, and it could only go in the chest with, say, the red wool in it because it stacks, right? But no, this one just puts it into the chest just completely manually. You don't need placeholder items at all. And it is also very simple to configure, right? You can see at the back here, this is what it looks like. Now, we have a bunch of placeholder items here. I'll explain that in just a bit, plus some shovels, which I can kind of explain in a bit. But we have this red wool here, right? Now, that one red wool means that red wool can go into that chest. Now, say I wanted this to also sort soul torches. I would just grab this soul torch and replace one of the placeholder items. And look at that. Now, if we put a soul torch into the system, it will actually go in that chest. In fact, let's do that. If I now put in half a stack of soul torches, you can see the minecart goes underneath to pick them all up. The minecart will then come underneath this chest, and because it has soul torches in it, it will pick up that soul torch. Now this will change this signal strength here, and this observer will detect that. This will turn off this redstone torch momentarily, which will then allow the item to pass from this hopper into this hopper, which means this comparator is no longer powering this hopper, meaning that when the minecart comes up the top here, the redstone will go through the hoppers and will be able to go down into this section. Now that applies for every single column. As it comes back over the top here as well, you can see that since the item is now in this hopper, it is now unpowering this torch, meaning that when it comes back up, it will put the item back into this hopper and back into the chest, so the soul torch is back in there. But now I'm going to take that out and put the placeholder item back. Another thing, you may be wondering that when the next item comes through, it will then go down into this column, but it won't, since as it comes back around for the next go, it will pass over this detector rail, which will briefly turn off this redstone line, meaning that this hopper will no longer be locked and be able to put the item back into this hopper. Whew. Now that was a lot happening in a very short amount of time. Now if you didn't understand it, you could rewatch that section of the video, or you can check out the world download that I've left in the description. It is this exact world I am in currently. It's in the description. You can check it out. You can experiment with it. You can work out how it works, and also validate it and check that it will work for you. Now over here, of course, there are some other kind of messy little redstone bits, a bit of logic, bit of timing, which I won't really go into. It's pretty boring, but yeah, I'll show you exactly how to build it right. Just follow along and you'll be good. Now, you may be wondering, is this sorting system expandable? Now, it definitely 100% is expandable. However, I will not go into detail on how to do that because once you get more than 15 sorting chests, of course this column is just one for non-cycle items, so it doesn't count. But once you get more than 15 sorting columns, it gets a bit more complicated since this signal strength of redstone line here has now run out. If I was to place a block here, you can see this redstone is no longer powered. So then you have to get into start placing some repeaters in kind of weird positions. And you can add corners, of course, so you could add like a rail come over here, but unless you know a bit about redstone, have a bit of experience, I wouldn't suggest trying that. But if you think you're up for it, then sure, go ahead. This is definitely expandable. You can also make the chests come down further, and you could move this deposit chest down a bit, but that would kind of, you'd have to move this whole thing, and it gets kind of complicated, but it definitely is possible. So if you think you can do it, I encourage you to try so. Also, you can very easily make this shorter, right? This does not have to be 15 long. You can make it, say, 10, in which case you would just, like, cut out some of this, right? So you just wouldn't build it as long, right? If I build this 15 blocks long, you wouldn't. You just build it 10. So it's very easy to make it shorter than 15 blocks. I'm just going to be building the maximum just to show you how big you can get it before it gets a little bit more complicated. Now, there are some negatives to this design. Of course, with any redstone contraption, there are going to be negatives and positives to different designs. Now, a big one here is space, right? Now, a lot of sorting systems are big, so take that into account. A lot of the sorting systems you'll find are big, which was a big positive of my last one. It was very compact. Whereas this one sticks out 8 blocks from this wall, right? It's like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 to over here, so it is pretty big. And of course, with a bigger contraption, you also get a more expensive contraption, right? Since it's bigger, it requires more resources, right? More hoppers, more chests. Like, seeing as we've got a solid wall of chests, you need a lot of chests and hoppers for this design. Another disadvantage, which probably also applies for a lot of other sorting systems, is that if I were to save and quit and log back into the game while the machine is running, there is a good chance that it will break. Like, when you leave the game and come back, it actually resets the system for some reason. I don't know why, but it just turns all of these comparators off. So if there's items going to be running through the system, they're just going to go straight down here, which is not what you want. It is designed so that when you start up the machine, it will properly configure it before it does anything, but if you log off and log back on, during its process, it will break. Now, flying, like, say, really far away and unloading and coming back won't kind of muck up these comparators, but it could still break the system if it was, like, timed just right. So just to be safe, I wouldn't go too far away from this contraption while it is running. Alright, well, with that out of the way, let's get into the actual tutorial. Now, first off, here are the materials you will need. Here it is. So you'll need 3 stacks of chests. I didn't do that on purpose. It just turned out to be exactly 3 stacks. Very satisfying. But, yeah, a fair amount of blocks and, of course, hoppers and chests. These can be any transparent block, and this doesn't have to be cobblestone. This can be any wall. But other than that, these are the materials that you will need for this specific design. So for this specific size, these are what you'll need. If you're making it smaller, you will need less than this, but this is the maximum you will need. Also, real quick, I forgot to add the observers, so you'll also need 17 observers. Also, these are the minimum amount of blocks you will need. Like, this does not include the floor or the wall. That's the minimum you'll need. So you will need more if, you know, you want a wall or a floor to your base. But, I don't know. Floor's optional. Alright, well, over here in these chests, we have some other things. These are the placeholder items that you will need. So when you first build the machine, you won't have it configured. You will have just plain placeholder items in here so that it's ready to be configured. So you will need 11 stacks and 27 placeholder items. Now, real quick, scratch that. You will not need that many. You will actually need 12 stacks and 57, right? Know what I just said? You will need 12 stacks and 57 of placeholder items. Now, this does not need to be a paper, right? This does not need to be paper. This can be really any stackable item, but just rename it so that if you accidentally put it into the system, it won't break it, right? Because if I were to put another piece of paper named placeholder, it could break the system. So you need to make sure this is an item that you would never put through it, right? So that's why it's renamed. So that it's very unlikely that an identical item is going to go through. You also need a placeholder 2 item. This is because this is what is going into the minecart, so that it will only pick up one stack of an item. And it also helps with the contraption in a bit more complicated way. But that's not really important. What you do need to know is that you will need 22 of this placeholder 2. Now, it does have to be different. It doesn't have to be a different item, but it does need to have a different name, right? It cannot be identical to these, or else they will stack and it could break the system. Now, also over here, we need a lot of stackable items. Now, this does not have to be a wooden shovel, but I mean, a wooden shovel is a good choice because it's cheap. But yeah, you'll need 45 of these if you're doing this side. Of course, you need less if it's smaller, but yeah, just keep this in mind. You will need a lot of stackable items. Alright, so I'm just going to grab these out of the chest, and I'm just going to get right into building it. Alright, so we are going to start with placing in our chest, right? So I'm going to start with the input chest, right? And this will, of course, be sticking out one block from the wall. So we will then have a block here, because there will be a gap, and then chests like this. Now, I'm going to bring this out 16 blocks, because I'm going to have the max of 15 sorted chests, and then also one extra column at the end for non-stackable and items that aren't being sorted. Alright, well, I've now placed in the chests, right? They have to be 5 tall, and then however many you want, up to 15 sorted columns, plus however many columns you want for the non-stackables. And of course also 2 thick. Now that we've got all of these chests here, we're going to be basically placing a wall of hoppers on the back. Right, we're going to start here, and we're basically just going to have one hopper facing into every chest. Alright, just like this. We're just going to have a hopper facing into the back of every chest. Alright, now that we've done that, we just want to make sure that there are no hoppers that are facing down or facing the wrong direction somehow. They need to all be facing this way, right? All need to be facing into their chests like this. Now we want another hopper line that kind of comes across the top. So, since this is the column where the non-stackables are going to go, I'm going to place a hopper like this, and then just move these along here. Now, if you were to have multiple of these, you'd still do it just like this. Just place this at the end and continue them back like this. Right, we're now going to construct that whole kind of section behind the chest. So we're going to start with a block which is on the 3rd hopper down, just like this, so 2 hoppers above it. And we're going to pull this 15 blocks this way, right? Since these are 16 long, so we'll have 1 at the end. Now, of course, if we had some extra chests that were just for the non-stackable items, then the gap would be 2 blocks. Or if we only wanted, say, 14 sorting columns, it would look like this. But since this is 15, with 1 sorting column, it will look like this. Now, on top of every block, we want a comparator. Now, each comparator needs to be facing right into its corresponding hopper, like this. We now need 2 hoppers facing into each other behind every comparator. So the easiest way to do this is place a line of blocks like this, then a line of hoppers that are facing into those blocks. Then we're going to break these blocks and place in hoppers facing into those hoppers like this. Now let's make sure that every hopper is facing into each other like that. So we're now going to add some observers into this thing. So we want observers here, right? We want observers here, so diagonal to these blocks, and they need to be facing up towards these hoppers. Then we need to place a torch on top of each of the observers like this. Now, beneath these observers, right, we're going to have blocks under here. So they are going to be 1 block away from the face of the observer, and they're going to stretch the full 15 blocks. We're then going to have redstone, which the observers will detect. We'll see if I do that. Then the observers will detect the redstone, changing, so this is going to go along the top of these blocks. We're then going to have another row of blocks here, and on top of each of these blocks, we're going to have a comparator. Now, facing out of each comparator, we're going to have a chest, so we're going to have chests coming out of every comparator like this, and of course they have to be double chests. Now on top of every chest on the side that's facing towards the system, we're going to have a hopper like this that is just facing down into the chest. So we need one of these for every chest. And of course, just make sure that they are all facing down into the chest and not facing the wrong way. Now, one block away from these hoppers out this way, we're going to have a row of blocks, right? So these will be diagonal from the chests. Now on every block here, we're going to have a redstone torch. These are, of course, currently locking these hoppers. Now, on top of these blocks, we're going to have some redstone dust, and on top of each torch, we're going to have a glass block. On top of each glass block, we're going to have a comparator, and each comparator will be facing into a block that is above this redstone line like this. And then we need to put a block in between these hoppers and these comparators, so place a line of blocks here. Now on top of this block line, we're going to have a redstone line coming along here, and this is what will be locking the hoppers, and when it's not locking the hoppers, we'll be resetting them. Now we've got to add in some rails, right? So first off, underneath here, on the side of the chest that is also facing the other chests, we're going to have a line of blocks which are one block away and underneath from the chests, and then on top of each block here, we're going to have a powered rail. Now, of course, to power these powered rails, we are going to place a redstone lever on that side of the blocks, right? So all of these rails should be powered. Just going to place it over here on one of the blocks with a powered rail on top of it. Of course, you can put it here if you want, but it's just kind of benefits a bit more out of the way. We're also going to be placing a line of powered rails along the top of the hoppers like this. Now, these aren't currently powered, but will be powered when this redstone line is powered, which we will do in just a bit. So now that is all of the stuff directly behind the chests completed, right? So now, on the end, we're going to just stick a small little path that just moves the cart from this line to this line. So we're going to bring a block out like this and there. So it will come up here onto a normal rail there. Now from this normal rail, we will have a block coming out here, and then a block going up like this. This will be a powered rail, and then a regular rail again. We're going to have another block here as a regular rail, and then a block here, and also a block on the hopper. This is a powered rail and another regular rail. Now to power these powered rails, we're going to place a lever on this block here and turn it on. So that is that whole side of the contraption complete, but of course we need to create the, what looks like quite the mess, all over this side behind this input chest. Now underneath this input chest, we're going to have one obsidian block on the left side and with a 1 block gap underneath the chest. More on that in a little bit. Then we're going to have a block here and a block there. We are then going to bring out 2 blocks over here and then up 1 block, and this will come out another 2 blocks like this. Now from here, it will come across here to connect up with these rails. So we're now going to bring the rails from here to there. So these are all going to be regular rails. This will be a detector rail, regular rail, and this is a powered rail, a detector rail here, and then a regular rail and another powered rail. We are going to add a glass block or your transparent block here next to this rail, and on top of that will be a comparator coming out of that chest. Now, here we're going to have a block with some redstone. Now, this redstone will be facing into this powered rail and then a block here. So if I was to put something in the chest, it would power that rail. Now, underneath this detector rail, we're going to have a layer of blocks which have a 1 block gap underneath it. Now, these are going to come out to here and to here, sort of a diagonal sort of line. And then we're going to have these come out to here, and then a block here as well. We're then going to have 2 comparators here and 1 comparator here. these two will be a redstone dust. Now this will be facing into a block, and this will also be facing into a block. So there'll be 2 blocks here. There will also be a block here and a redstone dust on that block. And then coming out of this block, there will be 2 repeaters here. This one will be set to 2 ticks, right? So 1, 2. And this one will be set to 4, like this. Now this is going to be a redstone dust, and then we're going to grab a piston. Now, this is where the obsidian block comes in. This piston will have a redstone torch here. Now, since this is a piston, the redstone will redirect into that piston. So it means that we can make it a block shorter, because we can just, rather than hammer it out here and then turning into it, it can just go right into it. And of course the obsidian block is so it doesn't actually push anything or make a noise. Now what we've built just here is a pulse extender, or a timer basically. So this will time it so that the minecart will only ever take out exactly 63 items. Because of course it needs at least 1 empty slot to be able to pick up the item from the chest. So now we're going to be placing a block here with a redstone torch here. Now this should be powering that line. So the line should come out to here, then there'll be a redstone torch and a block that the redstone torch is on. We will then need a sticky piston underneath that block. So we're going to have the sticky piston here with an observer facing up, and then with another 1 block gap. So of course if we were to power this piston, it would push the observer up and power this torch. We then need to connect this to the detector rail, so we're just going to build a small staircase of blocks down to it and connect it up with the redstone, just like that. We're now going to add another 2 extra hoppers, so there's going to be 1 hopper that comes out to here and another one here. So when it comes to the end, it'll kind of go out to the side and back. We're then going to have a glass block here, and then a staircase of blocks coming down like this until it comes to here, like this, you see? So these rails will then go up here. So we're going to have 2 regular rails here. We're then going to have a detector rail, another regular rail, and then another detector rail here. We're then going to have a block above here, and then we're going to have a rail here. So this line will kind of come up here and then run into this sort of perpendicular rail there. So even though it looks like the minecart would get blocked by this block, it actually will come up here and then kind of go through it and then end up on this rail there. We're now going to place 2 blocks here, 1 block underneath this hopper, which we will be using in just a bit, and a block here to have a powered rail there, with of course a regular rail for the corner there. Now we need a block over here so the minecart doesn't go too far, and then we will need a lever, and we will need to place it here and turn it on to keep this powered rail powered. Now of course we need the thing that stops the minecart from going through. So we need our wall, and this is going to come up and it will be 1 block above that powered rail. We then of course need a sticky piston that is facing into that wall. We're now going to place a block next to this detector rail. We then need a block here, and this will have a comparator on top of it like that. This will run into a block like this, and this will come over here, and these 2 will have redstone dust on top of them. So it will power this, which will then make the piston stop the minecart from going anywhere. We then need a block that is next to this other detector rail here, of course with the redstone next to it, and then this will have a small little staircase going up like this, of course connected with redstone. Now this of course will make the piston originally stop the minecart in time, since it's further back. Alright, we're now going to place some more redstone lines underneath this, so we will need a redstone lamp here with a dust on there. I'll tell you in a bit why that is redstone lamp. We're now going to have another block here, also with redstone dust on it. We're going to have another block underneath here with a repeater coming out of this block. That will be facing into a block. Now we will have a block here, so that there's a redstone next to that block. We are then going to have a block here, and this block will have a redstone torch. And this is of course powering this block, which is currently locking this hopper. Now this is important so that when this lets the minecart go, it will lock this hopper So as it's coming out of the system, it won't let any more items through. If not, then as it's going out, it could let some of its placeholder 2 items, because remember, the placeholder in the minecart has to stay in it. But when it locks it, it also means that one item will get caught in here. So we need an extra little thing that will send a quick extra pulse to let that one last item through. So we're going to have an observer facing away from this redstone lamp. So when it turns off, the redstone lamp has a delay before it turns off, and then after that delay is done, it will fire a pulse into this block, and then quickly turn the torch off and back on again. Of course, letting the item through. Right, well this whole redstone section is now actually complete, and we can just put our minecart here. This is where the minecart will sit when the system is not running. So now that we've completed this whole thing, the system is almost finished. However, there are still some small but time-consuming parts that need to be done. Mainly putting in items. Now, first off, we need to put one item in every hopper here. Now, only one per layer, right? So we put one on the left or right, depending on which way you're facing. One that's furthermore towards these chests. So this comparator should be on, and this comparator should be off. So just on this side. So in every one of these hoppers, we need one item. Now, this doesn't have to be redstone. That just sort of makes sense to me, I guess. It can be any stackable to 64 item that you would like. I didn't really include it in the materials list because, well, it could be literally anything. You know, just put in those random spider eyes you've got in your inventory. Now, these items aren't used for sorting, so it doesn't matter what they are. They're just used to detect whether or not the item is in this one or this one. It's just a mechanism. I believe it's a T flip-flop, to be precise. But anyway, I don't even know if that's what that's actually called. I think so. Now we're going to put in our 22 placeholder items into here. Now, where did I put them? Here they are. So there's going to be 1 in these first 3 slots, and then 19 in the last slot, leaving this slot empty. Make sure you leave a slot empty, because otherwise they're not going to come in. Like, the items just won't enter the minecart. And now we come to the spot where we need to put in all the placeholder items into every double chest. So, first off, we're going to just fill each double chest, and each slot in each double chest with 1 placeholder item, leaving 4 empty slots, like that. Now do this for every single chest. Alright, well now that I have put 1 placeholder item in every slot except the last 4 slots for every chest, we're now going to place 5 items in that next slot, so there will be only 3 empty slots left. So just place 5 in this last slot here for every chest. Alright, so now that we've done that for every chest, we now have that extra 3 slots. Now, fill up those extra 3 slots with your unstackable item of your choosing. Mine, of course, is wooden hose because they're cheap. So we just need 3 wooden hose in those last 3 slots for every chest. Alright, and now that we've done that, the whole system is now fully 100% complete. Alright, well, while the whole system is complete, the whole process is not. We need to put in the items and configure the whole system to kind of let it know what items we wanted to sort into which columns. Now, of course, that is very easy to do. It's exactly like I showed you. So, I'm just going to grab a few types of wood, because why not? So, just as a demonstration, right, I'm going to go into each chest. Now, for the first column, I'm going to replace the first placeholder item with an oak plank. Now, the second one, I'm going to replace with a spruce plank. And so on, like this. Now, of course, you can put in multiple items. You can put in up to 50 items, right? So, you can replace all of these. You can't replace these 5 placeholder items, and you cannot replace these non-stackable items that will make the machine not work, right? Only the first 51 space placeholder item. So you could replace every single one with a random block of your choice if you wanted, and it would work fine. So now to test it, of course. So I'm just going to put in all of these, and you will see it will take out 63 of that item. Now, if it was a full stack, it would have left 1 item in the chest that was working, but since I only had 63, it will take the full thing. So it's now of course come up here, and you should see that this one, since this is the oak plank, by the way the oak plank should have gone back in there. Anyway, this one should be unpowered, meaning that the items are being let through down into here, and into this chest here. And of course this will happen with every column, and I'll be back when it has finished. Alright, well, as you could see in the time lapse, it has now finished. So we can check in each of these chests, right? We have the oak, the spruce, the birch, the jungle, I think, the acacia, dark oak, crimson, and warped. Now, of course, you can add multiple things, right? If I was to say, take these two out and add detector rails and a redstone torch, I could just put these things in here now, and it will sort them just fine into the right chest. And of course, if I were to put in a non-stackable item or some just random obscure items which you're not sorting for, then they will of course go into this bottom chest over here. Alright, so now if you haven't already, you might want to add a floor, and yeah, also just cover up the redstone with a wall, just kind of wrap it around. Of course, you'd need some kind of transparent block above the chest so you can still open them, or you could just leave a gap, you know, be able to see the hoppers. So I hope you found this tutorial helpful, and I hope that it works for you, right? If you have any problems, feel free to chuck them in the comments section down below. No guarantees I can help you, but I will try my best. Now, if you want to try expanding it, please feel free to do it. Best way to do that would be to download the world download in the description. So then you can just play around with the one that's already here and try modifying it and making it bigger. Or you can just use that to, you know, validate it and check that it works. You can also, of course, try it in corners, because those are definitely possible. Now, feel free to check out my Let's Play series, me and the boys, but for now, I'll see you later. Bye!